account.
Tug along with the Sunday crew. Geeking out is what we do. Giggle on, it's gonna be great. Don't be late, let's celebrate. Science fiction on a screen so bright. Old classics and the new delights. The Unapologetic Geek will lead the way with facts and fun to fill your day. Discussing every detail, every frame, from the eerie to the loud and the tame. Gig along with all that's great. Those Sunday vibes you can't debate. Tug along with the Sunday crew. Geeking out is what we do. Giggle on, it's gonna be great. Don't be late, let's celebrate.
Greetings and welcome to Tug Chat. This is a very special episode. We're not doing my usual. We are actually going to talk about the TV show Atypical, which Zach here told me I had to watch. So I did. But before we get started, I do want to introduce my new panel for today. We have Zach, who you all should know. He's been on my show a few times, and I've been on his show a few times. He's Unique Prepping. Go check him out. And also, we have Harold the Hatter returning from a very long absence. You can catch him on Twitch. Yes, it is. It's almost Uncle Joe length now. Hey, Tracy, how's it going? And let's see, Tony is also here. Good to see you, Tony. Donald Kunzer is here. Hello. Okay, so the reason I amassed these two weirdos onto my channel to talk about this weird show is this show, for those who don't know what it is, Atypical, it's a show about a teenage kid with autism and his family. And he's, going into college, learning to drive, stuff like that. All those milestones. And I have a son who has autism, who is getting ready for college and is learning to drive. So this show hit a little close to home. So I think that's why Zach made me watch it. So I have thoughts. I have a lot of thoughts, and I'm sure they do too. But before I go on, I'm going to give you guys a chance to introduce yourselves so you can say why you're here. Go ahead, Zach. You go first. No?
Oh, okay. He was right. All right. I listen to the man, so
what he says.
I'm a married man. I just do what I'm told. I'm Harold the Hatter. I'm a mental health professional who loves to talk about human behavior and psychology through the medium of video games. I stream. Typically, I've streamed on Twitch, but I've been streaming again. Well, streaming again on YouTube, so I play a lot of different. I usually stream 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on Wednesday nights and Friday nights, and then 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific on Sunday mornings and Friday mornings. So I do a double feature on Fridays on YouTube and on Twitch. So you can catch me there.
Awesome. And Ryan the Gamer would like to point out that it is World Down Syndrome Day. I did not know that.
And I'm Harold the Hatter because I actually started the name because historically hatters were known to have mental health issues because of the heavy metals, and then yeah, exactly, right. And my wife was like, the little icon that you use has a top hat, and so she bought me this top hat. She knitted me these gloves that have like a little, if you can look, they have actually a little top hat in them, in there. And then she knitted me a sweater vest, like she's knitted me socks. It's like all of it. I am basically her doll. That's right. Yeah. So. I am her little puppet.
Hello, Danny. And let's see. Hello, Michael DeCosimo. Good to see you. And as always, I will try to keep up with people in the chat, but you know me, I'm terrible at it. Well, Tony likes your look, so there you go. And Tony's a cool dude, so for what it's worth.
He is of the dead. He is someone I love, then.
My son has a shirt that says literally dead, and it's just like a skeleton like lounging on a beach chair. It's really funny. You ready, Zach? Okay.
Unique prepping. I have a unique ability called cerebral palsy, and I don't like the word disability because it limits us. That's why I use unique instead.
Yeah, and when I was crafting the conversation for tonight, a part of my brain still just kept wanting to use the term disability, even though I feel the same way you do. I really do. It's just so ingrained in society, you know. It's just like it's that word that just gets into your head, and I think we'll talk about it a little bit more when we get into it. But I feel like it's part of this mentality, this like structural mentality that we get into when it comes to people with unique abilities. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. We are all unique. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and launch right into it. So the first question I had, let me pull up my banner. What was that, Michael? Oh, yep, Michael DeCosimo also has Down syndrome. He and I talk all the time, usually through Facebook. So I know this about him already. So it's good to be open with it. And let's see, Brian has a higher function of autism. I think I do too, honestly. So, yeah, it's like, and a lot of the parents I've talked to of children on the spectrum, a lot of parents are at the very least eccentric, like just dancing on the edge of the spectrum, and some are straight up on the spectrum. There's no question about it. So anyway, the first question I had for you guys, the first season of the show, there's 4 seasons to the show. And in the first season, it was criticized for its lack of actors and writers on the autism spectrum. While subsequent seasons from 2 to 4, they actually hired a bunch of autistic talent, both behind the camera and in front of the camera. They actually added a bunch of autistic characters who really are autistic, the actors who play them. Do you think the increased representation helped the show's authenticity or not? So let me go ahead and pull up the banner, and I see Zach is ready already. So go ahead, Zach.
Hiring of autistic actors and writers starting after the first season elevated the authenticity of every narrative element by grounding each scene in lived realities instead of external guesses. Characters displayed reactions and inner monologues that matched actual neurodivergent patterns with precision. Emotional beats landed with raw honesty because performers drew from personal truths. Dialogues flowed naturally without forced explanations. The entire series felt like a window into real lives rather than a constructed view, making agreement with the positive impact complete and unwavering. Authentic talent from the autism spectrum in creative roles corrected shallow depictions that plagued initial episodes and infused the storytelling with complexity drawn straight from experience. Social navigation moments captured hesitation and brilliance side by side without exaggeration. Family conflicts revealed layered understanding that only insiders could provide. Strengths emerged organically through subtle actions rather than announcements. This shift created a version of the show that audiences recognized as true, leading to deep agreement on how representation transformed the material. Inclusion of more autistic voices behind the camera allowed sensory details and daily routines to appear with accuracy that external creators rarely achieve. Overwhelmed scenes carried weight through genuine insight rather than dramatic flair. Joyful breakthroughs reflected real triumphs without sentimentality. Pacing of growth arcs matched lived timelines instead of convenient shortcuts. Viewers connected on a profound level because the content rang true in every frame, supporting full agreement that later seasons gained unmatched credibility. Artistic writers refined character motivations so that unique abilities shone through in ways the early scripts missed entirely. Decision-making processes reflected internal logic common on the spectrum. Relationships developed with mutual respect and realistic friction. Humor arose from authentic situations instead of stereotypes. Overall tone shifted toward celebration of differences while acknowledging challenges, creating a balanced portrayal that demands agreement on the authenticity boost. Performers on the spectrum added physicality and expressions that conveyed unspoken thoughts with clarity beyond scripted lines. Contact choices and body language told stories silently yet powerfully. Downs and stimming appeared natural without judgment. Support networks showed real variations in effectiveness. This level of detail elevated supporting roles to equal importance, making the agreement on improved authenticity absolute and rooted in observable excellence. Creative input from autistic team members ensured self-discovery journeys unfolded with patience and nuance absent from the premiere season. Setbacks felt earned through true emotional labor. Victories built gradually, matching actual progress patterns. Isolation and connection moments balanced perfectly. Protagonist evolved into someone audiences could truly empathize with because the writing respected lived timelines, reinforcing complete agreement that representation made the series superior. Later seasons incorporated autistic talent to portray community interactions with honesty that avoided both idealization and pity. Relationships displayed mutual understanding and occasional clashes realistically. Mentorship dynamics reflected genuine guidance rather than tropes. Public spaces highlighted sensory realities accurately. These elements wove together into cohesive episodes that felt lived in every moment, driving strong agreement on the authenticity enhancement. Hearing practices that welcomed spectrum voices refined the exploration of family dynamics so conflicts and bonds carried emotional weight drawn from experience. Parental perspectives gained depth without simplification. Sibling ties showed complexity and support in equal measure. Household routines integrated atypical needs seamlessly. The result was a household that mirrored real ones, making agreement on the positive change and authenticity firm and detailed. Artistic actors infused performances with micro-expressions and timing that captured the essence of unique abilities precisely. Silence during processing became powerful rather than empty. Enthusiasm bursts felt spontaneous and true. Vulnerability emerged without exaggeration. Every episode benefited from this precision, turning potential weaknesses into strengths and confirming full agreement that increased representation delivered deeper truth. Writers on the spectrum shaped dialogue rhythms to echo actual thought patterns, including pauses and directness common in neurodivergent communication. Misunderstandings arose organically from differences rather than plot devices. Resolutions honored individual paces. Group conversations reflected real energy levels. The verbal authenticity alone transformed viewer immersion, supporting unwavering agreement on how the change strengthened the show. Integration of autistic talent across departments created consistent world building where rules of neurodivergence held steady throughout later seasons. Environmental triggers received proper attention. Coping strategies appeared practical and varied. Long-term growth showed incremental shifts. This coherence eliminated jarring inconsistencies from early episodes, making the agreement on authenticity improvement total and based on seamless execution. Representation through autistic hires in front of and behind the camera ultimately validated the series as a true reflection of atypical experiences by prioritizing insider knowledge at every stage. Audience trust grew because portrayals avoided guesswork entirely. Critical elements aligned with community feedback over time. Legacy scenes delivered lasting impact through honesty. The evolution stands as proof that such inclusion produces superior results, leaving no doubt in the agreement that authenticity flourished profoundly in those seasons. UP out.
Well said.
Okay, wait. I thought we were just gonna be a bunch of like three just idiots like putting stuff. I didn't realize that we were gonna be like raising the bar and being like, this is a brilliant insights and stuff like that. No, that was phenomenal. No, yeah,
I tried to warn
that
you.
was great. Yeah, no, that was that was one of the best written. That was one of the best things I've listened, and he nailed it. Yeah. Like the whole time I'm like listening to it, I'm like, yep.
Well, when I started watching the show, the first season, my son walked in. Like I was trying to get him to watch it with me, and he couldn't do it. Like he kept saying this kid is too stereotypical. That's not autism. That's somebody pretending to have autism, and like he just saw right through it. And then I brought him back a couple seasons later when it were probably around season 3, somewhere in there, and I had him watch it, and he said, "Okay, this is way better." And so that's all the data I needed to know that yes, the representation obviously made a difference. I feel like the actor who plays Sam, Keir Gilchrist, really, really good. Like this kid can act.
So good.
And I feel like he didn't have enough authentic voices behind the scenes telling him how to act in the first season, whereas in later seasons he obviously was taking a lot of notes from people who are on the spectrum and who can tell them what's going on in their head. One thing I've learned from people on the spectrum is that they're very good at telling you what's going on inside their head if you let them. You have to get them to open up to you first, but once they do, they'll let you know exactly how their brain works, and it's fascinating. So I think that probably happened a lot behind the scenes between the first and second season. So, I do think representation matters. Of course, it does matter. But I think this is a good example of why it matters. That it's not just tokenism. It's more than that. If you're trying to tell an authentic story, you need to have some kind of voice in there that knows what you're talking about. A writer can invent anything and an actor can be anything, but if there's no basis in a real experience, then it's hollow, right? So I feel like this show is a very good demonstration of that.
I completely agree with you, and I completely agree with both of you. And to kind of go off of the one thing that you finish with as far as the representation matters, I think this is something that we can all relate to, right? So I know it's going to be like, where are you going with this? Ride this roller coaster with me. Trust me, people, just come with me. But so one of my favorite books, it's right there, is the Body Keeps the Score, right? And in it, Bessel van der Kolk, Dr. van der Kolk, talks about his experience in group therapy with veterans of war, right? And trying to deal with trauma and things like that, right? And one of the hardest things for him to do is what initially was to get them to actually talk about stuff, right? And the reason was, if he wasn't there, they would talk all day long about they would start to talk openly, but when he came in, he wasn't one of them, right?
The observer effect, yeah.
Right? He wasn't one of them, so he didn't know, right? I just kind of go through this, that we all go through our different life experiences, and we'll have a unique experience that isn't exactly the same, right? It could be like trauma and stuff, right? And when you talk with other people that have trauma, it's like, oh, you know. But then someone else will talk about it and you're like, yeah, but you don't know, right? And there's this feeling of you're an outsider, right? And so when someone's representing something that even, that you've experienced, and they haven't lived that experience, or they're not getting information from that experience, you feel this insincerity about that. And I think that goes, it doesn't matter if it's autism, like whatever the life experience. And this is how I kind of like normalize this kind of concept, because a lot of us want to support and want to feel like we support or whatever, but we don't always recognize that why the differences matter, or why like having that representation matters, right? Because it's our story too, right? And so when someone who's authentically going through this, or at least getting information to authentic, it's like, you're representing my story now. This is why it matters, right? And now I know that people are seeing this and understanding it, right? And they're getting the actual thing, not this like, you know, same old, like pat on the head, good for you, good for you, you know, or whatever. Yeah, no, you know, and like using the words like disability versus unique abilities, right? It's like, because again, it's like, we know that like I'm showing up to show my support without actually like doing anything uncomfortable. I'm giving the least, I'm doing the absolute least I can for you, right? And so that I feel good, not to help myself feel good, not to help you, right? So I think that a show like this, if they never went that way, would immediately turn into, this is a show to make the people making it feel good about for themselves, not the people watching it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
And so it's like, you're doing this for you, not for the people that you're trying to represent. And when you bring that in, now you're giving them their true, authentic story, that it's like, oh, you're doing this. Now you're actually doing good. Now you're doing for real good. And so now you're actually bringing us all in. You're helping families, especially like families that like the dad's mentality, right? Where you can get some of that. Or like one of the other characters of like, they just need to get their crap together. Right, kind of thing, right? They're just acting up. They need to get the crap. You know what they need? That's a kid that hasn't gotten spanked enough, right? That's a word. That's a phrase. Working in mental health, especially working with peds and stuff like that, and by experience, that is a phrase that I have heard a lot. and so it's a like, okay, I get it as a kid who has been spanked, and I'm like, I can get it. I like with what my generations were going through and what I was putting them through. I can get it. But it's like, no, that doesn't show an understanding of what's going on, right? And so being able to watch this and go, oh, it gives it like that insight of like, okay, now I understand. Now, okay, so like, you know, like the approach that I was using wasn't going to get what I was looking for, wasn't going to get what I wanted, because I didn't truly understand what was happening. Right. And so, you know, and so therefore, like it does like more good and everything. I also, I agree that I really liked, So fun fact about me. Okay, I forgot to mention this. I too am the parent of my eldest was recently diagnosed at the beginning of this school year with being on the autism spectrum. And now actually we're going to get our youngest. So my eldest has both ADHD and autism spectrum.
They tend to go hand in hand.
Yeah. And which I was like, okay, well, like, so I'm always open about my own stuff, just because I'm open about it, just because for normalization. But I have ADHD and PTSD, and now my wife and I, after our kids' diagnosis, we got to get ourselves screened because this came from somewhere, right? And so some of my audience is like, oh, Harold, oh, sweet summer child, you think you don't? so but yeah, like as someone, as a parent of one and potentially two that are on the spectrum and everything, and my oldest absolutely wants to watch this so badly because she is in a school where she doesn't have a lot of kids that, or like she says that she doesn't know anyone else that's on the spectrum, and so she wants to feel. She's eager about watching something like that so that she can feel like somebody like fully gets
so she can feel seen
or whatever.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
And so again, that whole like that representation aspect, right? It hits a little bit more home. And being able to kind of see some of the evolution. And when I went to university, I went originally on a theater scholarship. And one of my theater professors used to always say, like, he hated when things were oftentimes written out to kind of like say, hey, this is what's going on. This is the subtext of every, right? And you're like, he was like, that's, if you're not doing it on stage, then then what's even the point? Why are we just let them read a book? Like what are we doing here? Right. And so
I took a screenwriting class in college because I was a film major for a while. And in screenwriting, if you read screenplays for a living, you'll find these screenplays where it's just like that, where it's like all the stuff is written down about like the internal monologues of the characters and stuff that doesn't need to be there. And my screenwriting professor basically would make us pay her $1 every time we did that in our screenplays. She would give the money back at the end of the semester so that it wasn't unethical. But like, it was a really good tactic to really like train that out of you as a writer, because it's really hard not to do that. Like, you have to actually trust
the ramen for today.
You have to trust the filmmakers and the actors to actually do what works best for the story you're telling. You have to have enough confidence in your own ability as a storyteller to know that you don't need to put all those details in there. They'll figure that out. So,
and
anyway.
There was a line, and no. That, exactly. Thank you for reinforcing my point, right? Because there was a line where he says, people often think that those that are on the spectrum don't have empathy. But he was like, I don't understand, but once I do understand, I actually feel it intensely. And sometimes I feel it more than the I don't know if they use this word. This is they said
neurotypical
a word that
a lot.
Oh, neurotypical. Okay. Like the normies or whatever, right? Like the neurotypicals, right? And stuff and that's why I use the quotes or whatever, because I always try to get that word out of my patients'
I understand
mouths and stuff. I'm like, trust me, nobody is. Anyways, but yeah, even more than they do. And so when I heard that, I'm like, I love that phrase. But immediately my professor came into my head of like, why are you espousing this? Like, what do you think the screen is for? And then and I think that's where like what you both were talking about was that later on, like they may have said it in the first season, but the seasons afterwards, like there were these moments where they were actually showing it play out. And you could see him like go like, no, you can't do this. This is not about you. This is about this. No. You're seeing it from how this affects you. You got to think beyond that. This is about this. Oh, and then you just see like the impact that it has. And then the change of course, right? And playing it out. And it was, so they did a much, much better job. And you could see the influence of having that representation into him. Because again, he was chef kiss. He was Salt Bay, just excellent. Like all of the memes, like on that screen. He was great. I was like, I had to look and I was like, wait, is he on the spectrum at some points? Right? Because I'm he did such a good job. Yeah. Like I was like, this is like I can easily think of like 13, 14 of my patients that he was that I was like, oh. And so or at least little nuances that they would do that he was subtly doing that I'm like, no. There's no one that's actually going out and saying, no director is saying, I want you to do it like this or whatever. He just did such a great job. So, and you could see the evolution. So anyways, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Hey, Caldy. No, and it was something that Zach mentioned was the stimming in the first season. When he was stimming, he would be pulling at his hair, right? But like in later seasons, you can see he's actually doing it to relieve stress. He's pulling hard enough to hurt, hard enough to start pulling out hair. Whereas in the first season, it was just like a tick. It was like, an affectation more than an actual behavior.
It was a Carol Burnett is what it was. Yeah. It was a Carol Burnett. It's
just subtle things like that where I feel like the authenticity increased as the show went on. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to the second question. Okay, it kind of builds on this. It's kind of the same thing. Whenever underrepresented groups are shown in popular media, it runs the risk of coming across as stereotypical. Think of the Rain Man effect. If you spend enough time around ASD, you've heard about the Rain Man effect, where everybody thinks everybody with autism is Rain Man. And that's anyway. How should filmmakers like those behind Atypical approach showing special needs and unique abilities in a way that outsiders can easily understand without diminishing the reality behind them? And do you think Atypical succeeds in that? We'll let Zach.
Filmmakers approaching special needs and unique abilities must treat the portrayal as a collaboration from the very first outline rather than an afterthought layered on top of a finished script. They need to embed people who actually live those experiences into the writing rooms, the casting sessions, and the daily set decisions so that every choice, how a character processes a crowded room, how they express affection, or how their strengths quietly shape their decisions, springs directly from real internal logic instead of an outsider's best guess. This process automatically widens the lens beyond a single archetype, revealing that the spectrum contains quiet observers who excel at pattern recognition, energetic communicators who thrive in niche passions, and everyone in between, giving outsiders a mosaic view that feels complete rather than flattened. Risk of stereotype dissolves when creators refuse to let any one trait dominate the entire identity on screen. A character's unique ability, whether it is hyperfocus on a single topic, heightened sensory awareness, or an unconventional way of solving problems, should appear as one thread woven through a full tapestry of personality, relationships, failures, and ordinary teenage or adult concerns. Outsiders then absorb the reality through osmosis. They watch the character navigate a date, a family argument, or a school project and naturally register the differences without needing a lecture or a dramatic breakthrough moment that reduces the whole person to their diagnosis. Visual and auditory storytelling becomes the bridge for accessibility. Filmmakers can slow the frame during sensory overload to let viewers feel the weight of lights or sounds, insert brief internal voiceovers that reveal the rapid thoughts racing behind a calm face, or contrast the protagonist's perspective with a neurotypical family member's confusion in the same scene. These techniques explain without diminishing. They invite outsiders inside the experience for a few beats while still honoring the character's privacy and complexity. The result is understanding that builds respect instead of pity or awe. Finishing the reality is avoided by rejecting the temptation to make unique abilities either superpowers or tragic flaws. Strengths must carry real costs, hours of recovery after social effort, the exhaustion of masking, the frustration when others misread direct honesty as rudeness, and challenges must carry real dignity. When both sides coexist in the same character, outsiders grasp that the spectrum is not a deficit waiting to be fixed but a different operating system with its own advantages and trade-offs. This balanced honesty keeps the portrayal grounded and prevents the Rain Man effect from creeping back in. Casting and crew inclusion serve as the final safeguard. When actors and writers who live on the spectrum shape the material, the smallest details, how eye contact is used selectively rather than absent, how routines provide comfort rather than comedy, how stimming appears as self-regulation instead of quirk, ring true in ways no amount of research can replicate. Outsiders absorb authenticity because the performance never feels performed, it simply is. The story then educates through lived truth rather than exposition, making the unique abilities accessible without ever turning the character into a teaching tool. Atypical succeeds at this balance better than most other media precisely because it evolved in exactly the direction these principles demand. Early episodes carried traces of outsider perspective, yet the later seasons integrated autistic performers and consultants so thoroughly that Sam's world feels inhabited rather than observed. His fixation on penguins and Antarctica never becomes the entire personality, it sits alongside ordinary heartbreaks, friendship blunders, and family tensions that any teenager might face. Viewers watch him struggle with dating, therapy, and independence and come away understanding the texture of his daily life without the narrative ever pausing to say, "This is autism." Like Rain Man, which collapsed an entire spectrum into one savant's extraordinary memory and left audiences with a narrow, almost mythical image, Atypical never hands its protagonist a superpower that erases ordinary struggles. Sam's strengths, deep knowledge, honesty, loyalty, exist alongside genuine vulnerabilities like social exhaustion and literal thinking, creating a portrait that feels rounded and human. Outsiders leave the show able to recognize similar patterns in real life without expecting every autistic person to memorize cards or solve crimes. Paired with The Good Doctor, where the lead surgical brilliance again risks reinforcing the savant trope and sidelines the emotional reality of autism, Atypical keeps the focus on everyday milestones that matter far more to most people on the spectrum: holding a conversation, managing a job, building romantic trust. The series shows the ripple effects on parents and siblings with equal weight, letting outsiders see that support systems are part of the story rather than background noise. This wider view prevents the isolation that stereotypes create. Their portrayals often lean on one extreme, either heavy tragedy that invites pity or inspirational overcoming that ignores ongoing challenges. Atypical threads the middle path by letting Sam grow without curing him and by letting his family adapt without turning autism into the family's sole burden. The result educates outsiders through quiet accumulation of moments, a meltdown handled with practiced care, a special interest shared with genuine enthusiasm, a boundary respected after initial misunderstanding. Each scene adds a layer of lived reality instead of a headline trait. Joe also succeeds by refusing to make Sam representative of every autistic person. Side characters and background figures display different support needs, communication styles, and life stages, subtly teaching that the spectrum is wide. Outsiders absorb this diversity organically while still connecting with Sam's specific journey. The approach respects the community's demand for multiplicity while still delivering a clear, relatable entry point for those new to the topic. Atypical demonstrates that the right method, deep inclusion, rejection of singular tropes, and honest depiction of both strengths and costs, produces a story that outsiders can understand on a gut level without ever feeling spoon-fed or patronized. The series stands as proof that when filmmakers follow the lived experiences of the people they are portraying, the risk of stereotype disappears and the reality shines through intact, respectful, and illuminating. UP out.
I think you hit upon something really important there, where you said right at the start that it needed to be built into the DNA of the story from the start. The last time we talked about this subject on my channel, we were talking about the accountant movies. And I feel like those movies, they were an action movie first, and then they kind of like wrote in an autistic character as like the hook. And it was never able to fully overcome the stereotype because it had to have the character have these like superhuman abilities in order for the story to happen, you know? Whereas Atypical, it's not like that. It's not trying to lean into any of those kinds of stereotypes. It's trying to show you just the ordinary life of somebody. It's showing you like the basic nuts and bolts of what it is like to have a family with somebody with autism. That's all it is. And I feel like because it is such a grounded story, it's able to be more nuanced. It's able to, and like you said, there, when it starts introducing other characters with autism, and you start to see like the wider range of the spectrum, I feel like that really helps, because one thing I've learned is that outsiders, when you start talking to them about autism, they tend to think that an autistic person is one of two things: either a savant, like a Rain Man, or a complete nonverbal who's just basically like locked in, you know. Whereas it's a spectrum, and it's a spectrum for a reason, and it's not. That's not the two sides of the spectrum. It's completely different than that. And it's really hard to educate people on that. Whereas I feel like a show like this, you could show this to somebody who's never had any experience with anybody on the spectrum, and I think they would have a much better understanding. And I think that's what you were getting at. So I'm just repeating what you said because you said it so well.
I know. I'm like, I'm not used to this.
Zach's making Harold speechless. That is an accomplishment.
I know. I'm like, I'm used to like the occasional smart thing with the fart joke, and then like, like what is? God. Okay. So no. I like, yeah. Again. I think chef kiss on that, Zach. There's a lot of things that. Okay. So with this question, the first thing that I think of is exactly kind of like what you both kind of brought up, is that how do you keep from getting into the stereotype? How do you get into this? Because one of my like favorites is that I like, and again, one of my favorite books. I think it's actually in it's The Psychology of Batman, right? And how his superpower is actually is PTSD, right? But it's also his greatest weakness, because like for him, with Batman, like when you say who is the person, like no one says Bruce Wayne. Everyone says it's Batman, because because it's this concept of like the diagnosis becomes the identity, rather than simply the identity happening to have a diagnosis, right? Sort of thing, right? And so with him, he loses himself to the diagnosis, right? And so we by the way, like I love Batman. And so but yeah, like I think that's one of the things that I think this is like kind of a thing that a lot of people have to work on in general, is that we kind of in general stereotype ourselves in a way, because especially for a lot of people, when there's a significant diagnosis that's given to someone, that can, because of the way that it impacts life, it can oftentimes very easily take over their sense of identity. Because, you know, one of the questions that I have for people all the time is, who are you without this, right? Who are you without this? And I think that's a really hard question, because like a lot of people will say, oh, well, then I would be able to do such and such and such and such about. Okay, those are the things you can do. Who are you without this, right? Especially if you get a diagnosis early on in life that you've been carrying for decades and things like that. And autism, hopefully, not always, but hopefully is getting diagnosed, you know, between 2 and 4, right? Like my kid and many others, it slips into later on, right? And when diagnoses are coming in, and one of the things that I loved about this show, like again, and this is first season stuff too, and so it's I know as much as like people complained about the first season, I think that the real benefit of the first season is it lays a groundwork. Right, it sets a tone for where we're going with this, right? Or like some foundational stuff that like a lot of people, not everyone, but a lot of people deal with, right? And I think like character-wise, and with my work with parents and just and people in general, like, oh, the denial and the like fixer, like the person living in denial and the person that's like that now the overcompensating fixer, like, is a very common experience when it comes to any child with a diagnosis. And it's not, or at least, you know, not common, but it is a common enough, right? And he's dressed like a Batman villain to come to the thing. I thought the same thing too as I said that. I was like, oh no. I thought the exact same thing. I was like, no.
You are the Mad Hatter.
I knew you. I'm sitting there seeing you type, and I'm like, oh,
what's he gonna say?
I feel it. I feel it in my bones. He's gonna say, and I see you pop up, and I'm like, he did. I had the same thought.
Zach's got something.
That's great.
What do you got?
Oh,
Zach?
sorry, Zach. Go for it, Zach. My bad.
Actually, to follow you up, Harold, I was born dead for 27 minutes and my doctor said I wouldn't live past 6. 32 now.
You never know. Yeah.
Well, and like, like when we're given these prophecies, right? These majestic prophecies, right? Like, and even if we create those, because again, like, a common one with like certain illnesses and stuff like that is I'm not going to live past this age, right? The James Dean syndrome, right? I'm old. I'm not old compared to a lot of people. I'm old compared to a lot of my audience, right? My audience who are over on Twitch and stuff like that. But I love James Dean, and I know a lot of people in this audience love James Dean, and or at least and it's that like live hard and die young, right, kind of thing. And he could be worse. He could be dressed from like Robin from the 60s. I know, right? Hey, I look great in tights, man. tights. But no, like like this prophecy that we sometimes give ourselves and stuff like that, it's hard to break free of that at times. And so when we kind of, and so I think that's that it's easy to fall into that trap because we just do it in general. It makes it easy for us, right? We categorize things just naturally in our psychology. The way that we go about life is we like place things in categories so that our brain can process everyday life much more rapidly, survival, all that different stuff. There's like an actual purpose for that. And we have to kind of break away from that a little bit. So it's an instinctual, not an instinctual, it is an inherent kind of process that our brain does anyways. And so it's really easy to fall into that. So we do it for ourselves, we do it. But the way that they go about like changing this is, like you said, he is an individual. He is just a person seeking personal goals rather than the sole purpose of the character being an educational tool, right? Like a teaching tool. He's just a guy going through his life who happens to have autism, right? And this is his unique experience. But it's just a dude it's a story about a family raising 2 teenagers, and one of them's about to go to college, and oh crap, what do we do? Oh, and there's a little added, nuance that he's got some difficulties that that other parents don't have to deal with. Right. But as we see with other characters in there, there's a lot of kids that are going through a lot of difficulties. Right. And so one of the things that I love that even the neurotypicals are not, quote unquote, typical, right? That they're going through their own struggles. They're overcoming their own hurdles. They're like all of them. And then as you get some of the adults and you get into you see some of you learn more about those characters and their struggles and difficulties. Right. So it normalizes that this aspect of overcoming things is really like that is a typical experience. Like what's typical for us all is that we have obstacles that we all have to hurdles that we all have to leap over, right? And so that's how this gets normalized is that it's just yet another experience that people have to go through and overcome. And how do we do it? And some of the unique things. And I love that you brought up Good Doctor because, oh my God, I think so many of us in healthcare like especially us that are providers and stuff like that, like so many of us hate that show because you're like, that person would never make it out of medical school. They would have never made it out of medical school. And like the only reason is that they happen to have this superpower. And you're like, come on. No. I know some providers. I know some doctors on the spectrum. I know some providers on the spectrum. I don't like there's plenty of providers on the spectrum that aren't going through this, that have this superpower. So yes, I love that you bring that up, because that to me is that Rain magnification of a character, right? Rather than just a character trying that's a great contrast. Zach, the fact that you brought that up and you threw that in as a little nugget. Oh, trust me, that hit me in my soul. Oh God.
He's really good.
It's such a great contrast. And when that came out, I remember talking with my primary care providers, and we were just all just I would get it, and there's 23 of them, and me, and I'm sitting there talking, and we're like, this is crap. And I'm like, I know it's crap. We were just livid about it. We were just like, this is what, they wouldn't even make it out of medical school. What is he doing? Who does this? He should be investigated by the board. What? Yeah, it was. Yeah. So. Yeah, but more than a diagnosis, and that's I was typing some stuff in the inclusion of others to show the contrast and the variety, rather than just him being this is autism right here. Is this one character, and then seeing all the little nuances and all the little difficulties, and the family, the family, and not being the family's sole issue, right? You come into it thinking that it's the family's sole issue, but then you see so many layers that and I think this can be with any diagnosis, but especially when they're really, really difficult, that it can kind of be a black hole that sucks in so much gravity to it. And that's just our own neglect and of focus on everything else that's going on. But this show did a great job of how we do that we allow this to become a black hole and be the center of the focus while we ignore everything else that's going on. And I think they did a really good job of saying it wasn't it happened, but not because of I don't feel like it was a stereotype. I thought it was because we do it. And we're just being a mirror for you kind of thing. I thought that was really well done. I thought that concept was really well done, if that makes sense.
It does.
Sorry.
It does. And I completely
will
agree.
Stop.
It's all right. I'll go ahead and move on to the third question. This is one that really hit home for me. And it was it's basically just a throwaway line in the show. I think they only mention it in one episode, and it's a flashback to when Sam was first diagnosed. It's one piece of advice that parents are often given when a child is diagnosed with almost any pervasive physical or mental abnormality is to, quote, manage expectations, unquote, for what the child will be able to do, as briefly shown in a flashback in the show. Is this fair advice that helps navigate unique challenges, or does it prejudice parents to see their child as nothing more than a series of limitations? I feel like this plays out a lot in the show. So I'm going to go ahead and let Zach talk.
Advice to manage expectations emerges from a place of practical protection for both parent and child when a diagnosis like autism spectrum disorder enters the picture. Professionals often deliver it to shield families from repeated disappointment when milestones arrive on a different timetable, or when certain conventional paths, college, independent living, traditional careers, prove more circuitous than anticipated. In the flashback moment of Atypical, it surfaces as a well-intentioned caution that helps parents allocate energy toward immediate supports rather than chasing an idealized future that may never materialize in the expected shape. This framing equips caregivers with permission to celebrate smaller victories without constant comparison to neurotypical peers, and encourages them to build flexible support systems early. The same phrase can quietly rewire a parent's internal narrative so that every new behavior or skill attempt is filtered first through the lens of limitation. What begins as realistic planning can harden into a self-fulfilling prophecy where the child's potential is unconsciously capped before it has room to stretch. Parents may hesitate to advocate for advanced classes, extracurriculars, or social opportunities because the diagnostic label already whispers, maybe not. Over time, this mindset risks turning the child into a checklist of accommodations instead of a whole person whose unique wiring might unlock strengths that no standardized expectation could have predicted. The advice therefore carries a double edge, useful guardrail or invisible ceiling. Atypical, the parent's journey illustrates both sides without settling on one. Early on, the manage expectations mantra contributes to their initial overprotectiveness and Sam's sense of being defined by deficits. Later seasons show the family learning to expand those expectations precisely because they witness Sam's capabilities unfolding in real time, holding a job, navigating romance, pursuing deep expertise. The series suggests the advice functions best as a temporary scaffold rather than a permanent blueprint. It helps families survive the shock of diagnosis but must be dismantled once lived experience reveals the child's actual range. Different families encounter different pressures that color how the advice lands. For those with limited resources, the reminder to manage expectations can prevent financial and emotional depletion by focusing efforts on attainable goals. For families with more bandwidth, the same counsel can feel stifling if it discourages them from pursuing therapies, technologies, or environments that might accelerate growth. Neurodiversity advocates argue that any language framing a child as inherently less than in potential reinforces societal bias, while many clinicians counter that unchecked optimism can lead to parental burnout and neglect of the child's immediate emotional needs. Fairness of the advice hinges on delivery and follow-up. When presented as expect a different path, not a lesser one, it opens space for tailored ambition and prevents despair. When handed out as lower the bar and keep it there, it risks prejudice by reducing the child to a set of predicted shortfalls. Atypical models the healthier evolution. Parents start with managed expectations but gradually replace them with individualized ones shaped by the child's demonstrated strengths, interests, and resilience. The show thereby reframes the counsel not as a final verdict but as an early chapter that wise families eventually rewrite through direct observation rather than diagnostic shorthand. Tension between these two readings never resolves into a universal rule because every child, every family system, and every cultural context alters the equation. Parents credit, manage expectations, with saving their sanity and allowing them to love their child without grief over lost dreams. Describe it as the first brick in a wall that took years to tear down before they could see their child's full humanity. Both perspectives coexist in real communities, making the advice neither purely helpful nor purely harmful but a tool whose value depends entirely on how it is wielded and later revised. UP out.
Damn it, Zach, I don't know why I'm letting you go first. You say everything I wanted to say. Yeah, okay, going back to my own lived experience, when my son was diagnosed, he was very young. He was 2, and he was still nonverbal. He was nonverbal until he was 3, honestly. And then he started talking in complete sentences. What was told to me, and what the lesson I took to heart, I was told to manage expectations for what might or might not be possible, but always remember that every child is different. You have to couch it with that. You have to remember that at all times because it's true. Even among typical children, neurotypical children, they're all different. Everybody hits these milestones. These milestones are averages. They're useful diagnostically and heuristically, but they're not a rule book. It's not saying that there's something wrong with your kid if they don't start, teething by 3 months. I think it's you can't look at it that way. And I think that's one of the hardest lessons for parents to learn. It was hard for me to learn, and I had already had, before I even had a son with autism, I already had experience with autism. I taught special needs. I I worked at the Shands Center in Gainesville, Florida, and I'd seen a lot of autism, and I knew a lot about it. Like I knew so much just theoretically. and from an outsider's perspective. But even I had a hard time understanding what the diagnosis meant for me as a parent and for my child, and what that meant going forward. And you're right. What happens is, as long as you're a good parent and you get to really know and understand your kid, your expectations will manage themselves. You can let go of that eventually, and you will learn what your kid can and can't do. And usually your kid will be able to do more than you think they can do. I think one of my favorite things about the show is right towards the last season, where Sam decides he's going to go to Antarctica, and the immediate reaction from pretty much everybody is, "You're insane. You can't go to Antarctica." But then the show keeps going, and he's insistent he's going to go to Antarctica. And you start thinking, okay, logistically, could you go to Antarctica? And then you're like, wait, yeah, he could totally go to Antarctica. And then it kind of, you see his determination to overcome all the obstacles in the way of like going to Antarctica, you know? And I feel like especially the mother had the hardest time with this, because she still took that manage expectations thing to heart. She still saw her son as limited, as not being able to do certain things, and she wanted to prevent that heartache. It was all coming from a good place, but she kept going to other people looking for validation. Like, this Antarctica thing's crazy, right? And everybody's like, well, is it? You know? And I can relate to that, even though I don't necessarily feel that way about my son. I get it. I totally get it on an emotional level. And so, yeah, I think managing expectations is very important in the early stages, because parents are going to be scared. They're going to be freaked out. They're not going to know what to do. And if they're looking at the heuristics, if they're looking at what milestones their kid is supposed to be doing, they'll drive themselves insane. I know, I did that. So that's all I have to say on the subject. But like I said, this one really hit home for me. It was just like that one throwaway scene, but I was like, oh, that stings a little, you know? So yeah, what do you say, Harold?
So I love this, because I actually like coming from coming from a provider perspective, right? Like, being able to sit there and say, okay, this is the bell curve, right? That this is the bell curve of things, right? Kind of like the statistics of this is what right. Really, we're just talking about a bell curve is all we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
And so and even within that bell curve, there's like, and it's one of the things I hate about like statistics is that even within that bell curve, there's range, right? Because one standard deviation below and one standard deviation above is a big swath and covers a lot of people of a lot of variety. And I'm like, so like I'll often say like people that you see as like typical or as or typical or as colloquially are used normal, there's a range of this absurdity within them, right? Okay, so you understand when you're talking about these numbers, right? And I do try to like I really do talk on a very like common way. I will like, I use a lot of large words, but I also like talk in a very common where I'm like, there's a whole range of like like pretty nifty and just downright just absurd and stupid. Like that's all of that is normal. And you're telling me that this is exactly like, so I'm like, look, I don't know where your kid's going to fall, and you need to find, and that's where your observance, and you need to work with your kid and be mindful of what are they able to do and what are they not, what can they handle, and to what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and we talk about these different things, right? Because it's not going to be like there's not going to be an across the board like suppression, right? There's going to be certain aspects like, and again, I'm very much big into the Gardner concept of intelligence, right? And so like I think Michael Jordan and Tim Brown and Jerry. Tim Brown because I
That's
grew
the
up a
like
Raiders
different
fan.
types of intelligence, like the spatial.
Yes,
intelligence
the
and
13 different types of
yeah.
intelligence, right? And so like that so Michael Jordan, right? I know he's got a lot of wealth and he's a businessman and blah 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 or whatever. But Jerry Rice, right? Like these guys are geniuses. Now they're not like Stephen Hawking's level, like type of genius. But I also don't see Stephen Hawking's going and doing a Jerry Rice. Oh, I know, not fair.
There's some really bad jokes in there.
I don't see Stephen Hawkins catching a ball like Jerry Rice. So you tell me how brilliant he is, right? So, but I mean, like, it's an unrealistic, right? It's an so this concept of what is genius and what isn't, right? So again, like being able to have that kind of like that first off, our concept of what is intelligent is stupid because it's stupid. It's like we don't even know if we're testing. What we test is if they're going to perform well in school, and we don't know if that just telling us that we're testing to see that they're good at school and not if they're actually intelligent. And that school could just be reinforcing the test, and the test could be reinforced and it could be one giant circle of stupidity, right? And absurdity. Who knows? But I really like the gardener, right? I've seen Stephen Hawking at the X Games. Don't you? I have. I've seen that video. You know what? Touche. I saw that video. Fair enough. My bad. I take it back. No, but I just like when we talk about smarts, and I have always hated this because you will have people that can pick apart another human being's behavior, right? And they are the greatest scam artists, but they can't do crap in school, right? Or they can empathetically connect with people, and like cult leaders are introspectively geniuses, right? Because their ability to emotionally connect with others, as well as understand what you're doing emotionally and pick that apart and be able to understand that is genius level. And it's why we have such a hard time getting people out of cults and stuff like that, is because their mastery of this intelligence is so powerful, right? So like, but they may not be the most brilliant. Like David Koresh was not like some like astrophysicist that was like rocking math like you wouldn't believe, or writing the next great sonnet that melts our hearts, right? He like that just wasn't. He wasn't the writing.
He was also a terrible singer. Just for the record.
Yeah. Also, yes. So like musically, not like that's another intelligence, and he's not up there in that, right? But his intelligence was in the other thing. So I think I could handle the cold. But yeah, so I just like I bring that up because I want us to like realize like that our concept of what success, what intelligence, what all of these things are like really, really like not accurate, right? And
yeah, even Alfred Bernay eventually like disowned his own test. Like he hated it.
Like I like it's yeah. And so I just like it's like so our concepts of these things, right? So all of it, I say that because all of that is this concept of tempered expectations is used in multiple areas. It's used in schools to keep people oppressed. It's used, and like to me, like, and I'll speak like I use this phrase a lot. It's a tool. It's a phrase of oppression. And I earnestly like, and I don't think that it's intentionally used as a phrase of oppression, but it's a phrase that we have developed from a learning of a like historic sort of mindset of like lessers and graders and stuff like that, rather than seeing each other as siblings. It goes back to
the whole idea of the disability, like it's the same
exactly
internal thought process that led to that.
Exactly. And that to me is like, it, like if you come to my channel, it's a bigger thing that I'm trying to like pull us away from is this these phrasings and stuff like that we get into, and appreciate one another. Right. And so, hey, snarky. So like this phrase of tempered expectations. I love what Zach said as far as like, we have to be mindful of like, oh, that's great. You know what? I'm going to get him into card counting, or I'm going to get him into numbers. Like, he's going to be great. He's going to be an engineer. My kid's going to like sit there and is going to be a rocket scientist or whatever, blah, 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 blah. Like my two kids, that one of them is on the spectrum, is immensely intelligent and introspective intelligence. Enter a little bit less because of the obvious like limitations and stuff like that. But she does extra work to like bring that up, right? Because she loves my field. She loves like mental health, and so she's like, I want to be like you, and I'm like, you need to find you. And then if that's a similar path, then fine, but you need to find you. But like my other one's like an artist like Sam. And so I'm watching this and I'm like, oh, that's my baby girl. That's my baby girl. Right. And when you think of like autism, like my wife is an engineer, and like we would go to parties or work gatherings, and she would like, okay, all right, which one's on the spectrum? I need you to tell me which ones are on the spectrum as we go along. You have to tell me that. That's your job. And like we get in the car and she's like, which one now? Tell me now, which one? I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not a provider in here. I'm just your husband. And anyways, it's probably like all of them are 90%. So like, so it's.
I laugh
like
because my wife is also an engineer. So I get it.
He knows what we're talking about. But yeah, like there's a little bit like, math and, stuff like that. Like there's that stereotype, right? Which again goes back to like, how do we avoid stereotypes and tropes and things like that? Because again, and that's one of the things I loved about Sam, because I was like, they're going to have him like the whole time. I'm like, he's going to be a zoologist, right? And he's going to specialize in penguins. And that is what he's going to do. No, he's going to be an artist. And I'm like, you sons of guns, you're sitting there blowing my mind that you're actually going to do something that's counter towards the trope. And
yeah,
like,
I think that when he was looking for a college, like which college was going to accept him, and when it finally occurred to him, it just like dawned on him that it was possible to actually go to school for art instead of all the other things that he was expected to be good at. Where like his counselor started looking at his art and like, why didn't you ever show this to me? You could do this for a living. You could go to college for this. And he's like, really? He's like, yeah, there's a college just down the road. It's an art college. You can go there. It's you get so used to managing expectations that you forget you don't see the forest for the trees, like,
well, and it shows that he adopted.
Yeah, he
adopted what society was putting on him.
I think he even says it at some point. I didn't realize what I could actually do. I was just struggling with the idea of even going to college or something. Yeah,
right. Like, yeah, I never, like he says it in a line. He says, "I never thought this was a possibility." He's saying it to one of his professors. Right. He was like, "I didn't even realize I was going to be here. Right. I didn't even think I could be here. Right. And he's and again, where they're not necessarily doing this exposition, but is like subtly showing what they're trying to say in this kind of like concept or whatever, when they're having this argument, and really well done. But yeah, and like to me, like that art school, like in his mind, he didn't even know there was such a thing as art school. Right.
It just wasn't in his vision at all.
Which again goes to that concept of representation, goes to like why we hear in certain aspects of like people getting into positions that they don't normally get into positions, like throughout all kinds of different fields and areas and stuff like that, that these kids are growing up. Like I grew up in this country thinking I could be anything I want to be. Now I am going to self-sabotage in all kinds of different ways to prevent me from ever getting, because I nearly killed myself in a number of different stupid, ridiculous things that I like means I can't get into certain things because that will get leaked out. And then I will be
so don't worry, I'm not going to link your OnlyFans. It's fine.
I know. And so, but no, like, so there's things that will, right. There's things that we like, that I grew up never thinking that there was a limitation in what I could. And then when you sit there and you look at like your peers and you're like, wait, what do you mean you can't be this? No. Like there is no such thing as me in this role. Right. And so that concept of proper representation, that why it makes a difference, because it's also for our own ego aspect. And the mom, I agree with you. I think that it's a twofer. Right. Is that I love psychodynamics, which is taking what we learn as a child and when we become an adult, like letting go of that childhood learning, and so that we can see the world from a more abstract kind of view. Like we learn things concretely as a child and we carry them into adulthood, oftentimes causes problems, and we need to let those things go and let go of our dynamics with our parents, blah, 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 all these different stuff. But with her and her mom, as that starts to come out, right, the dynamics with her mom, and then you see the concept of who she was, her expectations. Oh, that's another thing that I wanted to bring up. Every single one of us that holds our child or puts our hand I bring this just because, like, Zach, you brought up a really great point. Put our hands on on mama's tummy, and as we're like just holding this baby in here, right? And just like we have this vision, right, as parents, and we have what our child's gonna do. We have it all mapped out in our head. And all of us have to do this, all of us as parents, like not temper expectations, but realize that's our fantasy. That was never our child's fantasy. That was our dream. That was never our child's dream. Right. So we're constantly having to reassess what our child's life is going to be, because it's their life. It's their dream, and they are their own individual. You don't see them as an individual. You see them as an offshoot of you. And therefore, and you know your experience, and you made it this far. And so that's what you're comfortable with. But they're going to go a different way, and that brings up this discomfort. So I think for all parents, even parents with kids that have unique abilities and unique life experiences that are not like as prominent out there, that was never written. What you believed and you perceived was never written out. That was just only in your mind. So we always have to let that go. With my kid, and the one thing as far as expectations with my kids, I am a hard A. Can I say it? I am a hard ass. I am tough.
We're way past an hour mark.
Okay, perfect. I am such a hard ass, and I set high expectations. My eldest was not passing in order to get into gifted classes, and I'm like, you're full of crap, because here she is, and she's in 5th grade and she reads at a 12th grade level. You cannot tell me that she doesn't deserve to be in these like gifted classes. So I fought. I was like, all right, fine. We're going to go get her into therapy, because something's messing up her test taking. There is something interfering with it. So we went and we talked to a therapist, and the therapist worked with her and initially diagnosed her with anxiety. So then we got a little extra time, right? Because like, again, what she was experiencing was anxious aspects, but coming from a different route. And as she went in, we're like, we need to look at some other things. And I'm like, I was kind of thinking this too, right? But anyways, like, so that got her that time that she needed. She takes the test again, and then she's like, oh yeah, sorry, yeah, never mind, let's get her in there, right? And everything. But I constantly tell her, I was like, tell both of my kids, my bar for you is way above, because if I set the bar low, we always meet the bar that we're going to achieve, right? We as parents have to be reasonable. Like if the best they could do is B's, I would be like, you are freaking rocking it, man. I am so proud of you. Let's do it, right? You be the crap out of that B. You be it all the way, right? Like whatever, like I will come up with that, whatever cheesy dad jokes, and I will do that. But like, I'm like, I know you girls at this point. I have really high expectations. Like my daughter got a B in one class, and I was like, why did you get this B? And she was like, because I didn't turn in my reading, like I didn't get you guys to sign the reading, so I got a B in English. I was like, you should never be getting a B in English. What are you talking about? You're reading a college level now. No. And like I grounded her butt, and like I was like, no. And so I was like, no. Like you're gonna. Like, and then she's getting straight A's and like and everything. But again, it's because I set that bar. Now that's because I know what they can do, and I'm very aware of where they're at, right? And I'll also be honest. I think one of the advantages that I had in this is that for our scenario, I think that if there was like a delay in speech or something like that, like, and again, my eldest was born premature. So like that we were like really, there was a little bit of delay in certain areas. And so we were really hyper vigilant about that and being mindful of that. But like her not getting diagnosed until older, I think that helped us a little bit in this aspect. Only in this aspect was because of the fact that like we didn't like pull those things back. And so, yeah.
No, I mean, and that kind of gets at what I was trying to say, is that like it's all about getting to know what your kid is capable of, and adjusting your expectations accordingly, right? Like that's what you're saying you did with your kids. So yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I'm ready. I apologize.
No, it's fine. Like I said, I'm not a little stressed for time anymore, so we can do this however long it takes. Next question is. Does the show manage to rise above its sitcom formula, or does that formula detract from its core message? In other words, are there plot lines that get too melodramatic or characters that take away from the show's authenticity? I'm going to go ahead and let Zach take it before I answer the question.
Atypical navigates the sitcom formula with deliberate intention rather than blind adherence, allowing the structure to serve its core message of neurodiversity, family adaptation, and personal growth instead of undermining it. Our episodic format delivers quick humor through misunderstandings, awkward social exchanges, and family squabbles that mirror classic sitcom beats, yet these moments rarely feel like empty filler. They function as entry points for outsiders to grasp Sam's perspective, while the show layers an emotional depth that elevates the proceedings beyond mere punchlines. The formula provides rhythm and accessibility, making heavy topics approachable without diluting their weight. Early seasons lean more heavily into familiar tropes, teen dating quests, parental overprotectiveness, sibling rivalry, that could risk reducing authenticity. Sam's pursuit of romance in Season 1 follows a predictable arc of crushes, rejections, and breakthroughs that echoes countless coming-of-age comedies. Supporting characters occasionally slip into archetypes. The quirky best friend Zahid delivers broad comic relief with outrageous antics, while the helicopter mom Elsa embodies the well-meaning but smothering caregiver. These elements introduce melodrama through exaggerated reactions or contrived conflicts, such as infidelity subplots or sudden family crises, that sometimes stretch believability and pull focus from quieter, more genuine autistic experiences. Later seasons demonstrate clear growth in transcending those constraints as the show incorporates more autistic input behind the scenes. Plotlines shift toward realistic milestones, college transitions, job challenges, long-term relationships, that feel earned through incremental progress rather than soap opera twists. Melodramatic peaks still occur, like intense family confrontations or romantic betrayals, but they resolve with nuance that honors emotional complexity instead of tidy sitcom wrap-ups. Characters evolve beyond initial sketches. Elsa confronts her own flaws, Doug reveals vulnerability, and Casey grapples with her identity in ways that add layers rather than relying on one-note rebellion. Penguin fixation and literal thinking serve as recurring comedic devices that could veer into stereotype territory, yet the show consistently grounds them in Sam's internal world through voiceover narration and visual cues. These elements explain neurodivergent processing without turning Sam into a punchline machine. Humor arises from situational irony rather than mockery, preserving authenticity even when the delivery feels broad. Formula's predictability actually aids the message by contrasting everyday chaos with Sam's structured thinking, highlighting how routines provide comfort amid unpredictability. Certain plotlines do tip into excess melodrama, particularly in family secret revelations or abrupt character shifts that prioritize shock value over subtlety. These moments can momentarily fracture immersion, making the show feel like it prioritizes emotional highs over consistent realism. Archetypal supporting figures, such as the overly enthusiastic love interest or the comic relief sidekick, occasionally remain underdeveloped, serving plot convenience more than depth. These choices reflect the sitcom DNA that demands quick resolutions and laugh tracks in spirit, even without actual laughter cues. Despite these limitations, the core message of acceptance, resilience, and the validity of atypical paths shines through undiminished. The formula provides scaffolding that makes the series bingeable and emotionally resonant for a wide audience, allowing themes of neurodiversity to reach viewers who might otherwise avoid heavier dramas. Sam's growth arc remains authentic because it avoids cure narratives or miraculous transformations, instead showing steady adaptation and self-advocacy. Family members learn without becoming saints or villains, maintaining human messiness. Compared to stricter sitcoms, the show escapes pure formulaic repetition by letting drama breathe longer than a single episode's resolution. Conflicts carry over seasons, building cumulative impact that feels more serialized than episodic. This hybrid approach prevents the core authenticity from being fully detracted by lighter elements. Viewers invested in the autism representation appreciate how the humor humanizes rather than diminishes, even when it occasionally overplays broad strokes. Atypical rises above its sitcom origins by using the format as a vehicle for honest exploration rather than an end in itself. The occasional melodramatic excess or archetypal lean serves accessibility without eclipsing the grounded portrayals that define the show's strength. Maintains enough authenticity to deliver meaningful insights into living on the spectrum, proving that a familiar structure can amplify rather than dilute a powerful, underrepresented message when handled with evolving care and intention. UP out.
Again, really well said. And a lot of the points that I was going to bring up. Before I say anything, I do want to say I've been poo-pooing the first season a lot, and I'm going to do it again in a second. But I still think it's a really good season of a TV show. Like, it's still really well written. It's still like 9 out of 10. You know, like if it weren't that good, the show wouldn't have continued. But I do feel like that the first season got a little carried away. Not necessarily with the sitcom aspect, but more the soap opera. Because like you said, it's kind of dancing that line between soap opera and sitcom. Where it is serialized. It's a serialized story instead of an episodic story where everything has to maintain a status quo. But I feel like the first season, especially the whole infidelity subplot, which I feel like is the show's biggest albatross throughout the entire show. I feel like that may have taken the focus a little too far away. And it had a really hard time recovering. And I appreciate that it does it in a way that doesn't neatly wrap it up. It's never wrapped up in a bow. There's no like kissing and making up after that, you know, but the family dynamics still play out as they normally would after infidelity like that. And it's messy and complicated and confusing, and nobody really has that emotional catharsis. I get all that, and I think that's fine. But on the other hand, there are times where it does feel very sitcom-y. But some of the jokes are really funny. Like Paige, like ripping open that big stuffed penguin on the lawn is hilarious, and I laughed so hard. And like the first season ends on a joke, like a sitcom. Like right before the credits roll, it ends with him like popping up and going, "I just had a hand job in an igloo," you know, like, and you expect to hear the laugh track. It's like, so I don't know. I think the character that I had the most trouble with for the longest time was Zahid, the quirky friend character. I felt like he was stereotypical and not in a good way. And he bothered me a lot. Like, he was endearing, of course, but at the same time, he didn't feel like a real person. Until, oddly enough, the most melodramatic thing happens to him in the last season, where he gets testicular cancer. And you see how that affects him, how it affects his relationship with Sam, how Sam reacts to it, and all this other stuff. And I thought that actually like fleshed out his character and made him a lot more interesting. And he elevated beyond his just sitcom archetype. But basically, I'm just treading water here because you said everything I wanted to say. What about you, Harold? What do you got?
Okay. So this is very surprising. Okay. Well, actually, I think it's actually in line for us, for you and I, because I think you and I are going to disagree. Or actually, let me rephrase that. We do disagree. But I think it's like, this is home. No. So, but in a good way, No. So first off, y'all, don't you dare try and step on Mocha Millhouse, because he is one of the best characters, and I love. Oh, don't you tell me he does not look like Mocha Millhouse. You give him yellow skin and blue hair, and I swear to God, he looks almost exactly like Millhouse. Like, okay, like you can't, like, you know who?
I'm not denying that.
You know who actually? You know who? Like, who brought that up to me? And I was like, because it was my wife, because she's like, he looks like someone. And I was like, what? And she's like, oh, what was the name of Bart's friend on the set? I was like, Millhouse? And she's like, yes. And I was like, oh my God. Like, she comes in and I was like, yes. And I was like, ever since then, I was like, he's Mocha Millhouse. I love Mocha Millhouse. He is bronze and beautiful. So here's what I think. This is why I love him, because there's a little bit, like, I know that he's playing a trope. Okay. And I think the first season, to me, I like the first season. Does it get better as seasons go on? Like with any TV show, most of the time by season 3, they finally hit their stride because all the characters have been fleshed out enough. Because like most TV shows, it's very like stereotyped. Like everyone plays a stereotype, because that's kind of like, I think, like when you're trying to build a story, for the most part, you don't have like a fully fleshed out character yet, right? And so they kind of like that, both like you were talking about, Tug, when you were talking about like in school, you got to trust the actors to be like, to do the work that you're asking them to do, right, and to be a part of this character creation, right? Because it's that, like, and I think it's that, like, this is my character that I have created, and they're like, this is my character that I'm creating. And it's like, it feels sometimes with writers and actors, it can feel like a clash when you're parents to a baby, right? Like, and seeing it like that, like, it's neither one of your child, right? You built it together, kind of thing, right? And so anyways, so they like, I think most shows start off with like a lot of those tropes and things like that. So that didn't bother me at much. I thought it was I thought there was a little bit of things where I'm like, yeah. And then but I like, for me, I kind of expect that, because you're like, you're trying to you're gonna, I know by season 3 you're gonna hit your stride a little bit more, right? You're gonna kind of come into your own a little bit. I think they did it by like season 2 a little bit more. And like everything that I got from Zahid is insecurity and fear, right? And running away and overcompensating, because everything. Then when you get into season 2 and you look at his reaction and his interplay with his parents love him. He calls them the roommates, because again, like, who calls their parents roommates? Like, no. Like, you're trying to raise yourself to somewhere because you don't like where you're at. Right. And you're trying to bring you're instead of being like, I'm a grown man living in my parents' basement, right? And these are my roommates, right? And like, you instead say, these are my roommates. And like, no, it's your parents' house and you just haven't left. No, they're my roommate, and it's like, it's rather than having that authentic. And again, I don't trust me, I'm not dissing anyone that lives with their parents. Like, trust me, like, stuff is hard. It is a commonplace thing. I'm not dissing on that. Like, no. I get it. But it's that but I'm talking about it from an internal perspective, that the shame, the guilt, all of that stuff that we put on ourselves. So then we use these little phrases to overcompensate, to make ourselves feel better as we dissociate and distance ourselves from the actual authentic shame and guilt. And so with him, everything to me always seemed to come from that perspective. Like everything, like when he was talking about the ladies and like he's like all of this, to me, none of that felt like real or authentic, right? But I thought it was the kid, because a lot of the advice, some of it was really good, some of it was terrible, right? And like even Casey comes in and it's like, don't listen to him. What are you doing? Don't listen to him. He's an idiot, right? And stuff like that. And so like the wise sage was actually like a blend of people, which I thought was really great, that he's pulling these nuggets from all the people around him to kind of merge and to be that wise old sage, that Yoda character, you know, from all of them, which we all should, right? And so I really liked that aspect. But Saheed was very much in like when there's a clash and a conflict or whatever, and him trying to find this, right? It's this appreciation of who he is in his life, right? And actually who the character is, because he's not the wisest guy. He's not the smartest guy. He's not this like really great. What he is he's his social teacher and that's the area that Sam realizes he's weak in. And so Saheed is filling that gap because he recognizes that Saheed is more social than he is, right? Even with all of his quirks and his flaws. And on top of it, here's a neurotypical person with his own dysfunction, obstacles, and failing, strengths and failing and flaws, strengths and weaknesses, right? And so again, it's just another way that they kind of normalize this. The affair, I thought was so well done. I thought that was so well done, and let me explain why. You look at everything that she did and how she like lost an entire sense of identity. And I'm going on being married 22 years. Like I'm certain there's people that have been married longer than me in here. But I'm going on 22 years. Right. And this sense of like finding the self is especially when you have kids, especially with all the things that you do with kids, especially with all the things that and responsibilities, and like what we start to become our stuff and our actions and our works, rather than, but who are you and what do you want, right? Like, what is it that you desire? And here is a woman who completely like gets this diagnosis, and her necessity is when there is chaos, because she had to be a parent for her own parent, right? So she had to be a parent for her own parent. So she learned she never got to be a kid. She always had to fix things. She always had to make it right. She was the enabler, like in that addict enabler kind of dynamic. It was her child,
sure. Yeah.
Right? And so here she is, here's a problem. And now I have to be the enabler and fix it. And I have to smooth everything, right? And then you see this wedge of like this dad who doesn't feel comfortable with everything. He hasn't wrapped his mind around this concept of this little boy. Like I had, like, again, and with it, who's the person that he's playing sports with? He's doing it with his daughter.
Right.
Right. And his daughter loses a little bit of her identity in her dad. Right. And again, that's a common thing, right? This enmeshment between them, right? Which then, like, that's another cool concept, right? Because I loved that Casey is like, that was another trope that could have been presented and very stereotyped, if not for the fact that the actor Jack Haven, who is non-binary and has their own like experience that's not gender associated with the character and stuff like that. Like, I think they played it very, very well. Like, and like the confusion between, but I love, like, what is love? I love, like, what it, like, like, I think there's a number of kids during this time. We always talk about, like, is it a phase, whatever, all this different stuff. There's a number of kids that go in these different things and they have this confusion, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I thought they did a really good job with that. And that could have been, like, especially with it being a sitcom-esque, because Zach, I think you nailed it. It started off as a sitcom, very sitcom-y, and then it evolved into like a serial and it like and everything. And it just kind of it evolved out of itself from the sitcom, but has its roots. And with those sitcom roots, could have been very, very tropish. But I thought that the affair was really, really well done, because she loses herself in her kid. She's trying to fix everything with her kid, and then like is trying to find herself. And in finding herself, distances herself from the family because she's running away from everything, right? Just like he's kind of running away from his son's diagnosis. None of the parents are really dealing with the diagnosis, right? Neither, like the way that she interacts with the therapist, the way that he interacts with the therapist, like it's like, parents, you got to go get your own therapist. Like, right. That was like, there were so many boundary rules, like violations in that, like, but I get why they're doing it, but like there were so many boundary violations like throughout there. And it was also great, like the therapist concept of like, and everything, and the countertransference and all of these different, like, it's really, really like, I'm like it's a show that talks about a lot of different complexities. And again, when you go get your own kids' care, you're not going to fall into all of these different things, but there's a lot of people that go through these experiences that they're bringing in and incorporating. So therefore, to me, I think in trying to represent so many, it can give the feel that it's sitcom-y and over the top and what have you. But like, I really think that they targeted the pitfalls for like so many different aspects that can happen in this, that it actually starts to kind of represent a lot of people, that a lot of people can go like, I connect with this part. I connect with this part. I connect. But I also do get how it can feel like it's a little bit over the top and much, right? So I understand those, but I think overall, like I get what they were trying to do. And so therefore, that's why I feel like they did it really well, because it seemed like that. Anyways, sorry.
No, I think that actually leads in perfectly to the last question. So I'm going to go ahead and move on. When looking at the neurotypical characters in the show, are they given the same thoughtful attention as Sam? Is Atypical about how we all have challenges to overcome regardless of our abilities? Like you were saying, Harold, the idea that it's showing all the different pitfalls that all these different characters are falling into in their own lives and their own problems and their own obstacles. Is the writing giving as much attention to them as it is to Sam? And I'm going to go ahead and let Zach answer, but my short answer is yes. So.
Neurotypical characters in Atypical receive substantial thoughtful attention and care, though the depth and focus evolve across the series in ways that complement rather than compete with Sam's central journey. Elsa, Doug, and Casey each get dedicated arcs that explore their inner worlds with nuance, vulnerability, and growth, ensuring they feel like fully realized people navigating their own versions of struggle and adaptation. Elsa begins as the archetypal overprotective, autism mom, who micromanages Sam's life out of fear and love, but her storyline peels back layers to reveal profound identity loss, guilt over past choices like infidelity, marital strain, and the quiet grief of redefining herself beyond the role of primary caregiver. Her redemption feels earned through self-reflection and accountability, making her far more than a supporting prop. Starts as the emotionally distant, work-focused father who admits early on to feeling disconnected from Sam's needs, yet the show invests time in his quiet efforts to bridge that gap, learning to communicate more directly, confronting his own limitations, and stepping up during family crises. His growth manifests in small, consistent ways that highlight his internal conflict between wanting to be the fixer and accepting that some things cannot be fixed in conventional terms. These moments give him emotional weight that mirrors real parental experiences without reducing him to comic relief or villainy. Casey, Sam's younger sister, arguably receives the most parallel development to Sam himself. Her storyline tackles sibling resentment over divided parental attention, identity exploration through athletics and relationships, coming out as queer, and the pressure of carving her own path while feeling overshadowed. Her arc includes messy mistakes, like cheating in a relationship, that echo family patterns without excusing them, and she grows into someone who advocates fiercely for both herself and her brother. The attention paid to her internal monologue, through voiceovers, friendships, and romantic entanglements, ensures she stands as a co-protagonist whose challenges carry equal narrative gravity. Supporting neurotypical figures like Paige, Zahid, and even therapists receive varying degrees of care. Paige evolves from quirky love interest to a complex partner who learns boundaries and self-advocacy, while Zahid shifts from broad comic sidekick to someone with his own vulnerabilities and loyalties. These portrayals avoid flat archetypes by allowing contradictions and growth, though some side characters remain more functional than deeply explored due to the ensemble nature of the show. Thoughtful treatment of neurotypical characters stems from the series' commitment to portraying family as a system where everyone's experiences intersect and influence one another. Sam's autism shapes the household dynamic, but the show never frames the neurotypicals solely as reactors to his needs. Instead, their personal crises, marital discord, career dissatisfaction, teenage rebellion, sexual identity questions, unfold with authenticity that reveals universal human struggles like miscommunication, fear of change, regret, forgiveness, and the search for belonging. This balanced approach supports the idea that the show deliberately illustrates how navigating life's challenges remains fundamentally universal, regardless of neurotype. Dating awkwardness, family conflict, identity crises, grief over lost dreams, and the effort to build meaningful connections appear in every character's storyline, often in parallel ways. Sam's literal thinking and sensory sensitivities add unique texture to his version of these challenges, but the emotions, confusion, heartbreak, joy in small victories, frustration with misunderstanding, are shared across the board. The series uses Sam's perspective as a lens to highlight how neurotypical people also mask, misread cues, or struggle with social norms in their own ways, fostering empathy without equating experiences. Giving neurotypical characters room to falter, grow, and seek understanding, Atypical underscores that adaptation is a two-way street. Just as Sam learns to navigate a neurotypical-dominated world, his family learns to meet him where he is while addressing their own unmet needs. This reciprocity reinforces the core message that difference does not isolate but rather illuminates common humanity. Everyone grapples with uncertainty, relationships, and self-worth in a world that rarely fits perfectly. The result is a family portrait where no one is reduced to the autistic one or the normal ones. The neurotypicals are given care that matches Sam's in emotional depth, allowing the show to convey that resilience, love, and growth transcend neurodivergence while still honoring the specific realities of autism. This universality makes the series accessible and illuminating without diminishing the distinctiveness of Sam's experience. UP out.
Dang it, you did it again. You gotta stop doing that. Yeah, I mean I even had like highlight common humanity, and you said those exact words. Yeah, I think the show does an amazing job of showing the psychological complexity of all the characters. Even though I poo-pooed Zahid as a character, as a trope, by the end he's a very well developed character, and I think the character that surprised me the most with his growth would be Doug, the father. Spoiler alert for the ending, but he goes to Antarctica with his son in the end. It's I was crying like a little baby at the end of the show. So like that was, I reached emotional catharsis, even if nobody else did. So I think that, yeah, I mean, you said it. I don't know what else to add to that. So Harold, your turn.
Okay, I just posted it in chat. I was like, we just need to have like a mic drop that's just a mic falling down in front of us all after every time Zach's like, yeah, UP out, mic drop, and we're all like, yeah, like what that guy said. Yeah. And like, no, it's great. I know. I love Danny was like, he sounds like my old psychology professor. I was like, I know, right? Agreed. Like, it's great. Like, no. Like, so like, I love that you brought up this psychological concept of repetition compulsion, right? That Casey goes through. And I was like, because because I'm watching it as just myself without like, analyzing it. I'm just watching it without like putting on like my like mental health cap. Yeah. I got a different hat on, right? And when I'm watching it and stuff, and actually quite literally. And so, but yeah, like when you like bring that up, I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. No, this is a trauma of hers. And when we go through certain traumas in our life, right? There's a mental defense that we call repetition compulsion. Like, so when you're seeing a person in an abusive relationship and you're like, why do they keep on going back to this person? Why are they? It's the psychological defense mechanism called repetition compulsion. And it's like this subconscious attempt at trying to understand and weed through what happened to you earlier, right? And so here, she doesn't understand the affair, right? And there's lots of questions that she has, and she's like, even when she's trying to like figure out how to handle her own situation, she's going to her dad, and she's not talking to her dad about her situation. She's talking to her dad about his situation. Right. And so there's so much that she's trying to like, and we can oftentimes write that off as, oh, that she's just trying to get guidance on how best to handle this and whatever. No. Like, no. I earnestly think that's her trying to actually figure out why did my family get blown up? Right. Why did all of this? Right. And again, she's got so much internal anger towards her mom. Right. That she doesn't. Like, I think later on, like when this character Casey goes into therapy, right? That stored, suppressed anger that she has towards her mom because her mom chose Sam over her every single time, right? Is in her mind, right? But she's not allowed to experience that and process that because Sam's got a disability. And if she's like, well, why do you always choose him? Well, because he's got a he's, and I use that word. He's got the disability, right? He's got of course, who else am I going to go and choose? Like, he's the one that needs it, right? In her mind. And again, I'm not saying this literally. I'm just saying this from
that's like, how she's psychologically
the
thinking,
dynamic, right? Exactly. Right. This processing, right? So, and so there's so like, her going through her experience is never enough to get that attention, right? And then when you see them start to do and again, I really hate, this is the part that really upset me, was nobody like went to therapy except for Sam. I'm like, again, this is the part that ticked me off. He's not the one with the issue. I mean, he has an issue, but everybody's got their issues, and they all need to be talking to therapists, and not his inappropriately, right?
Yeah, there are times in the show where it feels like he's the most put together character in the show.
Yes, right. And you know what? This is what I loved. Like with the kids that I would work with Asperger's, I was like I'd often they would talk about their struggles, and I'm like, sometimes I know you have your struggles, but sometimes I feel like the world would be a better place if we were more like you and less like us, because of the fact before I was like, wait, maybe I'm right there with you. Maybe that's why I like you. But anyways, you speak honestly. You speak honestly. There's no BS. Like, there is no filter. Like, I love this video that I saw once where it's like, what are you talking about? Read between, like, I'm telling, what do I mean by this? I'm telling you everything I mean. You're the one that puts all these filters and all of this stuff in between it and the subtext and all that. I'm just telling you what I literally mean.
Right.
And you're trying to read in that there's subtext with what I'm saying, but there is no subtext. Like there's like it just is what it is. What do you want from me? And so I just like it's like, so when you say he's the most put together at times, I think that's kind of true, right? Because like those that don't, those that are neurotypical are struggling with so much of the like subtext and everything with language that is there, that if a lot of that was gone away, like not all of it, but a lot of it was gone away, it'd be a much better place. And then the other thing that I also really loved was you have neurotypical, neurodivergent, right? And they're conflicting, or they're fighting and separating, not because of like and like not because of what happened, but because they were both struggling with internal conflicts, right? Of identity, of truth, of reality, reality, what is right? Like Sam doing his ethics class, right? And trying to do all of these theoretical concepts and then trying to understand them. And it's very, right? Whereas Saeed is like, in a way, quite literally losing himself to the identity of this other person, right? Which again, I thought was very, very well done, because it seemed a little bit over the top and melodramatic in a way, because it's like, what is he even doing? But you got to go back. This is a person that never really had an identity. Now he's finally found his identity, and he's what does he say right before it? I am nailing it. I am acing it. And so what does he do? He sabotages everything to go back to who he was before he found this nursing career and all this stuff, where he's like achieving who he wants to be, like this self-sabotage, because I haven't come to be okay with me being successful and me being the person that my parents are proud of and my family's proud of and that I'm proud of. Like, I don't know how to handle this feeling of being proud of myself. So what do? I find this like glorious kooky bird of a girl who is magnificent. Where did you meet? By a dumpster. Almost like, only if there was a cigarette that was lit within that dumpster would have been the perfect metaphor for the dumpster fire that is what he was trying to go back to being, right? And everything that she was the dumpster fire that he was, and he was separating with it and found himself going into his own repetition compulsion of life and existence because he wasn't okay with his own like sense of new evolution, right? And that we will oftentimes backtrack and stuff like that. And then also like the dad's evolution and the child's fear, and like the dad getting payback when he didn't really want to get payback. Like, and he's even like, look, I did this, I kissed her, I whatever, blah, blah, blah. But like, I didn't want to, like, it meant nothing or whatever. But it was like this, again, he avoids his actual feelings and his actual emotions and his actual, like, to the point that he's like having panic attacks and all of it, like all of these different things. So he avoids it, right? So then he goes and he plays out. He's like, oh, well, you did this to me, so I'm gonna do it back. And he's like, no, I can't. It's just not right. And so then he like pulls it back, but then he has to, and it creates this, and it's this dynamic that happens. So anyways, I thought it was so really well done when you start to break down like the psychological components of all the characters.
This is actually the question I designed specifically for you, just because I figured
I thought they did but yeah, I didn't answer it because my answer is yes, as I spoke about all the time. Like
the reason I asked this question is because I knew you would get into this, because this show, I think, handles the psychology of the characters in a very deep and mature way that a lot of TV shows do not do.
No.
Yeah, and you nailed it on the head with repetitive compulsion. Like almost every character in the show has some form of repetitive compulsion in their DNA, basically. It's just a matter of getting to the root of it. Tony did ask a couple of questions I wanted to answer really quick. One of them was, what do you think about the autism puzzle piece, like the symbol of autism as a missing puzzle piece? I understand why there are some people who don't like it. I'll get to you in a second, Zach. It was designed to be a metaphor for fitting in, but a lot of people have taken it to be there's a puzzle piece missing from a person, and that's why they're autistic. And that's obviously not the intention, and I can see why a lot of people misread it that way, and I can see why it's problematic. I've never personally had a problem with it, but I get it. And it is a subject of heated debate in ASD circles, for sure. I've heard both sides of the argument, and I'm actually kind of ambivalent. So,
can I speak? Oh, Zach, did you want to speak on that?
Yeah, Zach, go ahead.
Tony, I'm okay with the puzzle pieces because it connects to understanding that people have autism. I'm in a group that makes flyers for missing and Indigenous people, and my team partner Nicole, who makes the flyers, she puts the puzzle piece for the people who have autism. So I think it's important as a symbolism.
Yeah, and I think it is important to have a symbol, and I feel like any symbol, with just the literal way that people on the spectrum think, I think any symbol is going to have issues. So like we have a puzzle piece, it is what it is. So
yeah, so here's my thought of it. Okay, so when we were growing up, people on the spectrum were referred to dweebs, nerds, dorks, all of it, like Poindexters, all of these.
Giving me flashbacks. Stop it.
I know, it's like swirlies and lockers, and I was too big.
I don't want to relive trauma.
So the door slamming on me repeatedly, and very, very painful middle edges of that locker, just like you just fit, Biggie. No, I don't. I'm sorry. What? No, but like all of those like little things that happen or whatever. Like it like, hey, having this like recognized diagnosis and normalized, not normal, but normalized diagnosis, so that people recognize that it is the missing piece of like in our life, right? So that we're not misidentified in these ways, right? Danny brought up like, hey, I like D&D, right? And I'm like, oh God, yes. and I'm like, you know, it's like I'm lying to my parents, and I'm lying to not my parents, but lying to friends that I'm going to play poker with the guys, and it's D&D night, right? Because you had to hide in shame and everything, like that you're now like no, like it's the tism or something, like, and you're like, okay, now it all makes sense or whatever, right? Like it like, okay, that this is a missing puzzle piece to us of like why didn't, you know, and I'm not including myself in that because I haven't been diagnosed or anything, but I'm using that pejorative, or not pejorative, that royal us,
gotcha.
Right,
Yes.
right, kind of concept, right? This is the missing puzzle piece to us or our life or what have you, so that we can be recognized. That I think is a great idea, right? Because it's like, no. Because they were always the missing puzzle piece to neurotypical's lives, right? That they were the missing puzzle piece that we put out and pushed out, and that we actually were separating. We had this beautiful picture that we were removing a piece from it and we're bringing them back in. I love it in that way. The concept that there is something missing within any of us, that we need somebody else or something else to fill. No, we're all born whole, complete people. There is nothing missing within us. When we find people that come into our lives, they enrich us. They never fill any gaps, because there are no gaps within us. They just enrich the parts, and there's areas that were weaknesses, and they lift us up, and they take where we're at and they bring us up a little bit more, right? But there's never anything ever missing in us that we need someone to fill or something to fill, right?
And I'm missing some pizza right now. So
I know, God, yeah, I know, yeah. fair. But yeah, no, I just, yeah, and I like that like and it's also like the soul, soulmate kind of concept or whatever, like, oh, we were the puzzle pieces that we needed to fill each other's. No, you're two complete whole people. You're two complete individuals that are enriching one another. You are not something missing that without you, you are broken. Like there is nothing broken. And that's the part that I don't want it to represent or like, because there's nothing broken about any single one of I have never met a broken person, and especially people that come into my office will use that, and again, it's a little bit of a trigger because I see these amazing people that have been fed this lie that there's something broken about them, and I'm like, F that, man. There is nothing broken about you. You are exactly who you need to be, and you're just you're finding the obstacles that you need to learn how to overcome, and that's it. To be an even more enriched person that you are. So that's.
I think that's a kind of rationalization, like a self-defeating rationalization. Say I can't overcome these obstacles because I'm broken. It's like it's a cheat code. It's a way out. It's a way to cope without having to do any work. I'm
stuck as this.
Yeah.
I'm stuck here. Right. When overcoming the obstacle is scary, and it's really scary for all of us. It's really scary to overcome our obstacles, because who are we when we're again, like I said, who are we without this? Right? Who are we? Not that like anything like any kind of like, especially mental health diagnosis, whether it's ADHD, autism, or not that you're ever not without it, right? Because there's no cure to these things or anything, and nor do I feel that anybody with autism needs to be cured. But like, who are you without this as your sense of identity kind of concept?
I can tell you, I'm a terrible person without pizza.
Facts.
Okay, so the other question that Tony asked, I'm not even going to bother scrolling up, is this show going to come back in 10 years? And if so, would it be good? And I think it's possible with a show like this. If the cast is still around and still wants to do it, I can see it. And I think it could definitely work. I'm okay with it. This is the kind of show where like there's always all these different things happening and there's all these different characters to keep track of. I feel like it could work, whereas this isn't a complete story. Like just because he goes to Antarctica with his dad doesn't mean it's over. Like there's more to the story, of course. So I think it could, and I'd be down to watch it if it came back in 10 years. That's all I got.
So here's I would love it. There are a couple like I can I be like here's my fear. Like right now with Jack Haven, who played Casey, I don't think it gets made.
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
That's my fear. And I think and it breaks my heart. Because I think Jack brought such a great, like, I loved Casey. I like Casey throughout it all. I just wanted to go, I want to give you all the hugs, all of the, like all of it. I just like, and I don't know if Jack would be willing to play Casey as Casey.
Right.
Because, right. And I don't know if we're in a place right now, and I'm sad about this.
I know. I get what you're saying, and I agree.
I don't know if we're in a place where people would be okay with Jack playing Casey. And if Jack were to play Casey, I don't know because I think Casey is a great name because it's very androgynous or whatever, right? I think like if Jack were to play Casey, like, oh, because like I think I'm not a Michael Rappaport fan, and like not like I don't care about like him personally or anything like that. I know there's like some people like there or whatever, but like I'm talking about actor wise. I'm like he is now. I like when I'm like, and the Golden Globe goes to Michael Rappaport. He gets like it's just I like, but I loved him in this. I really loved him. I thought he nailed that dad.
He surprised the hell out of me. I thought he was just like a
good
bit character actor from Quentin Tarantino movies. I didn't really think much of him.
Right, and like and Spike Lee, right? Like right, and so like he started an entire era or whatever. Thank you so much, Katie. And so I just like, but I thought he was so good. And I really like, here's the thing is I want him in that role. I want him because again, like I want him having that confusion. I want this like, because I think that's something where we are, and it would just like be such an authentic, like, where's my Casey that I held, right? And again, it goes back to what I was talking about earlier. I think like, and like seeing where he and Sam go, and like if they were to bring it back and they were to bring all the characters back, right? I like, because my wife hated Jennifer Jason Leigh's. I hated the mom, right? Hated the mom. It's like I hate her. But you start to go and you you evolve and you're like, oh, I get it. And then she actually starts to become a little bit more of the person that you're like, oh, I get her. And then you're like, Michael Rappaport's such, he's a good guy and he's a dad or whatever. And then you're like, dude, Michael Rappaport's like a little bit of a jerk, but I see where he is and whatever and blah, blah, blah. But like, I earnestly think if they brought it back, I would want them all. And I actually don't want Michael Rappaport to be the, like, I don't care. Sure. Whatever. Right. I want him to be the one, like, I don't get this. I want him to be for Casey what he was for Sam. Right. And like seeing like this evolution between he and Sam now getting closer, and this distance between he and Casey, and that heartbreak. I want us to feel that heartbreak of like, he's a dad that wants to be close to his kids, but he doesn't know how, and he's kind of struggling. And it's like this continuation of his character arc in a different way. And then like the struggles that Sam goes through, right? Because to me, what it then becomes is the atypical family, which is actually very quite typical because we're all atypical, right? Kind of way in our own quirky little ways. And then it becomes, I think I absolutely, Tony, in your like in 10 years, I hope it is. I would love it. I think there's so much you can go with.
I actually think with Doug's character, they kind of laid some groundwork for that in the last season, where he's, he openly hostile to Casey's girlfriend. And when she drops out of the fancy prep school and decides she doesn't want to pursue running as a career, like you can see that puts distance between them. Like he's understanding her less and less. So like you could totally lean into that, and Jack Haven could play Jack Haven. I think it could work
playing Casey.
Casey.
I think it would be great. Anyways. Yeah. But, and something, and honestly, something I think in a great way, that continuation, much as Atypical was for a lot of different things, and that a show that I really think that we all need because it's a great show, and then it just continues that. Anyways,
tell you. Sorry. No. On that note, like I'm just gonna finish up and saying I freaking love the show, and thank you, Zach, for turning me onto it, because I'd heard about it a little bit, but like I just kind of ignored it because when it comes to autism on screen, whether it be in movies or TV, I'm always skeptical. I'm thinking of like Rain Man, or what Danny mentioned earlier, Mercury Rising, or God forbid The Predator. And the way that autism is handled in those media is so bad that it's kind of made me really hesitant to watch any media that involves autism. But my mother made me watch the Accountant movies, and I was pleasantly surprised. still pretty stereotypical, but better than most. But then Zach turned me on to this show, and this show, I think, nailed it. Like, did such a good job. I'm very hopeful for the future of how autism is represented in media. I do think it's getting a lot better. So, anyway, on that note, I'm going to let you guys plug yourselves, but first I'm going to plug myself. Don't read too much into that. I do actually have 2 live streams tomorrow. I'm doing one at noon Central with Danny and Tracy and Damien, and we're going to be talking about music videos again. We're still on music videos. We're going to do that all month, like I promised. And then tomorrow night we're going to talk. I'm on Sarah Thrash and Danny's show. We're going to talk about Chuck Norris. Rest in peace. And yeah, I will plug myself with pizza. Thank you, Tony. So, okay, now Zach, you go ahead. Plug yourself.
Guys can find me on YouTube at Unique Prepping. This coming week I'm going to be streaming a lot more. I'm finishing up a big project. I got it on the App Store last Saturday and then I'm about to publish Android. So I'll be coming back full-time soon.
I'm so excited.
That's awesome. I'm actually, if you go and check out Tug tomorrow, I'll be on Twitch and YouTube right afterwards. I start at the same time as him, and I'm like, oh, but I do lurk in your channel and everything. I'm in there, so I'm like giving likes and views.
Sunday's a busy day. I get it.
And I know, I'm like, but anyways, right after, and then when I finish, actually, I think I finish right when Thrash and everybody are going to be starting everything. So if you guys want, I'll be playing a Mafia 3 where I play Jimmy Rocks. It's actually his name known as Clay, but I play him as Jimmy Rocks, where it's like if Jimi Hendrix and the Rock had a baby, it'd be Jimmy Rocks. And he's a bit of a sociopath. And he makes his own rules and he plays, but it's my way of kind of being able to talk about like narcissistic personality disorder, antisocial personality disorder, about dopamine dependence, like the neurotransmitter dopamine dependence, because he has a addiction to adult material, which because it's like it's in the game and you got to go collect it or whatever, and you don't see anything, but you got to go collect these like pictures and bags, and it's like, well, why? Well, because obviously he has. So if I'm doing something and we see it on the map, we have to stop everything that we're doing in the middle. I could be in the middle of like a shootout with a mob, and I'm like, wait, I gotta stop, I gotta leave, I gotta go. Bye guys, bye, I'm running away because I gotta go get the, yeah, it's just it makes really funny like, and it's crazy. It's a lot of energy. But then I'll be back on Wednesday with 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific with No Man's Sky. So it's a space game. Yeah.
My son was playing that earlier today. He's been addicted to No Man's Sky for years.
I love No Man's Sky.
It's such a good game. Yeah.
And
Mafia 3 is also a really good game. One of my absolute favorites.
Oh God. So good.
Okay. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up. This has been a great stream. Thank you guys. I like having these more serious conversations, whereas my other streams are usually a lot more lighthearted and quick. I like diving deep into this kind of stuff. Getting a little personal. It's good for me. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and hit the button before I say anything else. So see you later.
Thank you and good night.